Look, Drake's new album, or his albums, just dropped. And obviously, there was a lot of Kendrick Lamar hate on there, okay? Not Like Us was just the biggest song. It was the biggest diss song of all time. And Drake's been sitting on that L for 2 years straight. So all of the Drake fans have been desperate to see him clap back at Kendrick Lamar. And this Iceman album was pretty straight through and through Kendrick Lamar disses. There was a whole bunch of Kendrick hate on there. Not surprising, really, but in this video, I'm going to break down all of the kind of Kendrick pot shots that were on the album, any other disses that Drake aimed at people, and I think it's pretty interesting just how bitter Drake is about this beef. It's still on his mind 2 years later, and there was a lot of there was a lot of like disrespect towards Kendrick, but in all honesty, I do feel like this beef is a little bit stale now. This would have hit 6 months after Not Like Us, but now like 2 years later, and there's no real red button, like there's no bombs being dropped, just a few subliminals, right? So Drake's still on this whole narrative of Kendrick using bots to pump up Not Like Us and botted streams and all this kind of thing. Now look, okay, he's got his reasons for feeling that. I feel like it's a little bit played out now, but in the Iceman episode 4, he's got himself burning a bot farm. This is apparently a bot farm. Okay, let's not get copyrighted, but yeah. Look, they've even got it playing Not Like Us, all right? Look, I know Drake's a very big artist, but this is the industry standard. Everyone's botting, apparently, okay? But Drake's still kind of stuck on this bot narrative 2 years later, okay? But in spite of the fact that the album's kind of had a mixed, reception, some people aren't feeling it. Some people saying it's mid, some people saying it's good. I think Iceman is really good. The other 2 albums I've listened to, I've skimmed through, not really given my full attention to yet. But basically, this could be a record-breaking week for Drake. They're saying he could break the record for the most Billboard Hot 100 entries by an artist in a single week, with his 3 new albums totaling over 40 tracks. The current record's held by Morgan Wallen, who got 38 songs held on the Billboard chart in one go. Okay, and basically, it could be a historic moment for Drake. It wouldn't surprise me, okay? Would not surprise me at all. He's now apparently the first artist ever to have over 60 songs charting at the same time on US Apple Music. Every song from his new albums is currently on the charts. So he is absolutely booming, okay? But across the 3 albums, okay, Drake will be taking shots at a lot of people, okay? A lot of people that were tucked in and involved in the whole beef with, with Drake and Kendrick and J. Cole, the big 3. All right. Make Them Pay was definitely a track where he was gunning for the ops, okay? An emotionally charged track centered on the desire for independence from fame, industry pressure, and public perception. Over a minimal, introspective tone, Drake balances gratitude for success with frustration towards critics, betrayal, and constant scrutiny. The song blends personal storytelling with status flexes, referencing his rise, wealth, and global influence while questioning the cost of it all. At its core, the repeated refrain, "I just want to be free," highlights a conflict between massive success and the feeling of being trapped by expectations, enemies, and the music industry itself. He dissed a couple people on here. He actually dissed Jay-Z a couple times, all right? And I thought this was really interesting. So he kind of guns for a few people here, all right? Basically, he's talking about all these things. He said, "Who tell me at the white party, Drake, I love the album, man. Well, I mean, you kind of genius." And like Dipset, they really mean it. He's apparently talking about billionaire Michael Rubin and his white parties, all this kind of thing. Okay. But basically, he kind of guns for a lot of people. So basically, this section here, he kind of goes for J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar. He says, "You dudes run and talk to Hov for a second opinion." So he's kind of gunning to Jay-Z as well. And there's a few Jay-Z disses on here. "Me, I stood 10 T's and accepted the mission." He's saying that he basically saying J. Cole went and asked Jay-Z if he should engage in the beef with Kendrick Lamar. "I'd much rather death than submission. How can you press the ignition and let some memories of the past affect your decision?" He's basically saying he felt like, J. Cole. I think he's aiming this at James Cole, or maybe it's Kendrick. He says he questions how someone can fully press the ignition and move forward with aggression if they're still being affected by the past experiences or second thoughts. This could possibly be a reference to J. Cole's brief involvement in the feud, with Kendrick dropping 7-minute drill before quickly apologizing and stepping away from the beef. So basically, He's talking about his homies that are basketball players. It says when he says, I love you because of history, but if we're being real, I could never forgive you. He's talking about DeMar Rosen, apparently, because he pulled up, was crip walking. He's basically saying, was he at the show? Was he at the pop out with Kendrick? He said, you never called me back, but destiny's written for real. F a big three. Anyway, there was way too many chefs in the kitchen. It was a mess to begin with, and now they got a new GOAT. We got to test the position. Damn, who is this guy for real? I guess a magician. 100 million streams vanished. No one got questions for M words. So that's J. Cole and Kendrick getting dissed, right? The new GOAT is Kendrick Lamar, is what it is. It says Drake dismisses the long-running Big Three narrative that grouped him, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole as the defining rappers of their generation. The idea began in the early 2010s as all three artists rose to dominance at the same time, constantly being compared for lyricism, influence, commercial success, and commercial impact. He's basically saying that there was a Big Three. It was meant to be Kendrick, J. Cole, and Drake. They did a song together. I think Kendrick was supposed to be on the song. He didn't end up pulling up. So then it was just Drake and J. Cole rapping about Big Three. Who the Big Three? We the Big Three. We the biggest. And then he's saying, F the Big Three. Too many chefs in the kitchen. It was a mess. Kendrick didn't want to be part of no Big Three with you. All right? It says the phrase became mainstream after Cole's line on First Person Shooter, where he called the trio the Big Three, framing them as rap's modern superstars. But Kendrick rejected the idea entirely on Like That, with the line saying, Mother F the Big Three, it's just Big Me. All right? Drake basically is flipping the narrative. He's saying that there were too many chefs in the kitchen, so just having all three elite rappers competing for the throne created ego clashes, calling it a mess to begin with, and calling it unavoidable. The feud is unavoidable rather than Kendrick ending the Big Three himself. But he's basically saying now we got a new GOAT. This is a reference to Kendrick Lamar's newfound position at the top of the rap leaderboard in the eyes of Drake's detractors who say Kendrick's the GOAT. It's not really like he for a brief period became the GOAT. He did manage to, if you want to say it's bots, he's saying it's bots. He's saying, who is this guy, a magician? He's saying 100 million streams vanished. Drake cites a fake since deleted tweet posted by parody account Pootings that posted misinformation about 230 million streams being removed from Kendrick and SZA's song Luther. That was a #1 hit. All right, I'm sure there's bots just like there's bots in every other hit song, but that was a certified, like that was a reasonably justified #1 hit song. So you can't really kind of gun for him too hard on that one. But hey, all right, he says maybe I'm best as a villain because I got real numbers on dudes who say they got billions. So this is apparently a diss towards Kanye West, right? It says his claims of remaining a billionaire in spite of his net worth dropping 1.8 billion amidst his severance with Adidas. His offensive claims to the Jewish community was what kind of triggered it. And Forbes reports Ye's net worth being closer to 400 mil than not nearly the 3 billion. Saying I got real numbers on dudes who say they got billions. I got all the chains they ever repped in Virginia. I got dudes' prized possessions. I get possessive on dudes. He's basically saying, yeah, I got all of Pharrell's jewelry that I bought. He bought, I believe it was an auction. He brought a bunch of Pharrell's jewelry. And yeah, he kind of like little bros Pharrell quite a lot that I've noticed. Okay, he disses Rick Ross. He says, dog, I was Aiden Ross with streams before Aiden Ross had ever streamed. He's taking a shot at Rick Ross, basically saying that he was helping Rick Ross do numbers. You know, he's saying he was help boosting Rick Ross's career by collaborating with him frequently. And then he flips the wording to reference Aiden Ross. He says, and Khaled, I know what you mean. The beef was fully live. You went halal and got on your deen, and people are still waiting for a free Palestine. So, as we all know, okay, DJ Khaled has been very careful not to say free Palestine publicly, right? Even though he is a Muslim Palestinian immigrant, he probably doesn't want to rock the boat with some people. That's all I'll say, okay? But basically, Khaled, he's not trying to get political with things. He's been silent on what's going on in Gaza. Ironic that Drake feels like the person who's pointing it out. But, hey, it is what it is, okay? So, there were so many little bars and pot shots that people hear, okay? There was a few different tracks where Drake basically gunned for Kendrick Lamar, okay? And I might do a really, like, a way bigger breakdown. But this was another line on the track, Make Them Cry, where basically he said, I'm at the Bulgari Tower in Turkey with my bitch, and we ain't come here for no big teeth. I came here to turn a new leaf and maybe finally get some sleep, but all I can think about is the mountain to climb and the conversations surrounding my music like they're Twin Peak. With Dot back in 2024 was a big piece. So it's like, this shit is me, but it isn't me. You keep on asking me what it did to me. That's what it did to me. When I dig deep, they say deeper. Tell us how it felt to meet the Grim Reaper. Right? So he's saying when the internet was basically dancing on Drake's grave, he was at an ultra luxury resort, the Bulgari on Turkey's coast. Okay. So basically, he's saying he went there to relax after the most grueling chapter of his career, but even there, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Okay. Basically was saying that, he had all these issues. Says he'll talk more about the racial dimensions later on, but he's talking about when he... That's an interesting way to look at it, right? Because I'm pretty sure Twin Peak is a reference to David Lynch's landmark series, a show about duality. And this is even suggesting that maybe Drake was thinking about the Twin Peaks, him comparing this. It says Drake will talk more about the racial dimension in another track, Make Them Remember, where he compares the summit of rap to his light skin and Jewish heritage. The Twin Peaks could be referencing both of his races. But then he talks about what's going on with Kendrick. Drake tackles his experience while engaging in his publicized 2024 beef with Kendrick, addressing the people, asking how the feud affected him. Drake deflected the shots Lamar directed to him, saying the latter's claims were untrue of his character. He also labeled Lamar as the Grim Reaper, akin to the artist's reputation as the boogeyman. That's interesting, all right? He's saying with Dot back in 2024 was a big piece. With Dot back in 24. So it's like, this shit is to me, but it isn't me. This shit is me, but it isn't me. They keep on asking what it did to me. That's what it did to me. I dug deep. They said deeper. Tell us how it felt to make the Big Reaper. This album better have some big features. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I'm all alone for my mental. He did have features on the album. I've been trying to end so many people. I almost forgot the intro. Been so sure of my words that I haven't used a pencil. So there was some more. I'll just show you a few more of the sort of very specific Kendrick Lamar related lyrics. This one on Janice STFU. All right, this one basically he was going straight for Kendrick. All right, he said, look, right, he's dissing. He's saying, I'm tired of you telling me dudes is real, pussy. I know when it's real. You only come home to pose and pop off a look, but you forgot how it feel. Chi-Town popping a pill, go on a drill, looking for someone to kill. This is interesting, right? So what's interesting is this seems to suggest this is about Kanye, right? He's saying that Kanye only comes home to Chicago to pop off a look. What does it say in verse 2? So you only come home to pop off a look, but you forgot how it feel. So I don't know if this is a diss towards Kendrick, because he could be saying you only come home to LA, because I believe they say Kendrick really lives in New York, saying you only come home to LA to pop off a look, but you forgot how it feel. But this is saying that maybe he's talking about Kanye going back to Chicago to try and tuck back into his roots in the streets. Now, when he mentioned Chi-Town, he says Chi-Town popping a pill, go on a drill, looking for someone to kill. It says he's accusing a Chicago rapper of glorifying violence and seeking enemies to harm. He's calling out fake street personas who perform toughness for an image rather than living that life. I feel like he could still be talking about Kendrick. He could still be saying Kendrick's acting like he a driller from Chirac. He popping a pill, going on a drill, looking for someone to kill on the mic. But in reality, he ain't really coming back and doing all of that. So I feel like this clearly is aimed at Kendrick Lamar, but you could possibly say that he was actually talking about Kanye too. He says, white kids listen to you because they feel some guilt, and that's how your soul gets fulfilled. That to me seeming Kendrick-y. He said, handing out turkeys on camera inside of your hood, then you go back to the hills. How many houses you build? How many souls did you heal off the back of your deal? Difference between dudes getting you out of your deal and letting you out your deal. Damn, against your will. How many new names do you got on your will? Damn. Now, let's see what they say about this, okay? Obviously, this says this is a jab at Kendrick after the beef in 2024. It questions Kendrick's fan base of white people listening and the guilt they have and the validity of his love for Compton, mentioning how after helping his hometown, he goes back to his lavish lifestyle. But let's be real. Is Drake really going to Jane and Finch, handing out turkeys and hanging out? He's going back to his giant mansion, the embassy in Toronto too, right? Like, this is, like, what's Drake doing? He said, how many houses you build? Is Drake talking about like he was building houses in Africa for disadvantaged kids, or is he just talking about the fact that he spent a whole bunch of money and built a big ass house in Toronto? Like, I'm sure Kendrick can build a house if he wanted to. Maybe Kendrick has built houses. Or is he talking about Kanye? Now, Kanye has said he was going to build cities and he was going to build all these homes and these domes and all this shit. None of it ever materialized. That makes me think, hang on. Maybe he's still talking about Ye. Now, this part's interesting. Again, this seems to be aimed at Kendrick, but it could be related to Kanye too. He says, difference between dudes letting you out, getting you out of your deal and letting you out of your deal. Damn. Apparently this is a reference to the tension between Kendrick Lamar and his former label boss at TDE, Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, who Drake alluded to being an extortionist behind Kendrick Lamar's label-friendly deal. He said, against your will, how many names do you got on your will? And I think that would suggest that it's like all these people are extorting Kendrick Lamar real LA style and getting pieces of his career in a way that's probably not super helpful to him. But anyway, okay, he goes on and says, how many more times y'all going to keep calling it soft when it's silk? How many more interviews are you going to do just to get Ice to chill? People are saying he can be referencing all the people who've been doing interviews before the album drops, like Rick Ross, Metro Boomin, all the other alleged on the 20v1. It says they're trying to cover it up like a quilt. Now, I think this could be a reference like Kendrick did do. I think he did a big Vogue interview with SZA or something when the whole beef was going on. They said you're trying to cover it up like a quilt. So I think this is just basically, you know, I think really it's like he's talking about, you know, the allegations that they botted. Look, you can say they botted, everyone was botting, but that song was a hit. I feel like Drake really needs to let it go, and it's getting a bit embarrassing at this point for him to keep bots. But the song was a hit. Step this way and step this way. And it was a hit. It had a bunch of really catchy moments. A minor, they not like us. They not like us. Bro, I'm sorry, but it was harder than anything on any of these new albums, right? It was a hit. He made a hit, right? And Drake, we know you can make hits. You make hits all day long, right? So you need to just... Drake needed a Not Like Us. He needed a clap back. And that one of like, your baby mama ain't even post a single. It's like, that is a hard diss. That is a hard disrespect to Kendrick Lamar, but it's not a hit song. We ain't all going to sing that, all right? Around the world. That's no God's plan. Anyway, these are some of the more kind of cringy metaphors. Rari goes screw on a boy like a kilt. Kept it 100 on paper like Wilt. Anyway, okay, there was another kind of Kendrick diss on another song called Dust. So he would be dissing Kendrick on this track, right? And this one, he went off, all right? I would say that this whole song was aiming at him, right? He said, some idiot boy there. You should go ahead and pop some corn, grab a stool, right? About to get interesting. All the numbers are final. No t-shirts, no vinyl. About to make me richy like Lionel for real. So obviously this is a reference to all these other rappers that basically they be selling bundles and selling merch and bundling it with the albums to try and make their numbers inflated. That's what's going on in the music industry. And he's referencing that, and he's saying you don't need to do that, right? Low key, you know who'd be doing that? Travis Scott. Could he be talking about I don't know. But this was kind of a cool intro, honestly. Like, girls from Atlanta, call me Santa. That was hard, right? I actually thought this was a great intro, but he got straight to dissing Kendrick Lamar, all right? He said, yeah, they was like, go blow the dust off your plaques. Go blow the dust off your plaques. This seems to be suggesting to me that it's like he's saying that he's talking about Kendrick, but I feel like he's talking about a few other people. You know, he's basically saying you guys wasn't popping for a minute. I think this is aimed at Kendrick, and he's saying, go blow the dust off your plaques. That's what you did when you was doing Not Like Us and you was reviving your career to come at me. And this is where I think he continues, right? He says, what was the last year they say you had slaps? This is a direct reference to Kendrick Lamar's surprise feature on Metro Boomin's We Don't Trust You album Like That, which infamously ignited the beef, all right? So what was the year that they say you had slaps? Because I don't remember it going like that. I don't remember one word in your raps. I don't know nothing about you on them tracks. Let's go, right? So I would say this is basically saying like, you know, Kendrick was way more popping back in the day. He kind of went quiet a little bit and he reignited his career dissing Drake. Now, look, Kendrick has had a lot of success throughout his career. It is a little bit of a reach. Yeah, sure, we can't all be on Drake's level, but I do feel like Drake's kind of like, he's reaching a little bit. It's like, okay, like Kendrick did have slaps. He was having an illustrious career. Let's not be silly, all right? Thought this was interesting. We said an FTX penthouse high riser, Samuel Bankman free all my guys up. Now, I was thinking, wait a minute, was Drake like penthouse neighbors with Sam Bankman Fried in the Bahamas or something? Like, that was interesting. Never heard of that one. But anyway, other people that got dissed on the album, of course, LeBron James got a few pot shots, okay? And this is all Kendrick disses as well before we move on, all right? Saying if it's up to me, then you all on a list, everyone signed up. Said if it wasn't for reaching out for my hand, you never would have climbed up. He's basically saying Kendrick, you know, he had a lot of help from Drake early in his career. Drake put him on, brought him on tour, shouted him out, collabed with him. You know, that's basically a diss towards him, right? You're BTC crypto high riser, right? You know, Drake got a lot of crypto. He got all the crypto gambling money on deck, you know. But anyway, these were some lines that are apparently aimed for LeBron and some other people, okay? He's saying, y'all forget And this is going to lead into a reference to Dr. Dre, which is kind of ironic, right? More disses towards Kendrick. It's talking about a booster seat for yourselves and all the lies that you tell because Kendrick is short, right? If Drake took out the AK, maybe he'd be in jail just based off the name that it spells. So he's saying Drake, take out the AK, Dre. If Drake took out the AK, maybe he'd be in jail just based off the name that it spells. What they say they just smelled. I heard they got special places in hell for dudes joking about evil when they did it themselves. So this is a reference to Dr. Dre. If you take AK out, right, it spells Dre. And he is known, right, he was basically cheesing it up, high-fiving Lucian Grange when Not Like Us won the Grammy because they hate Drake. And basically he's referencing the history of Dr. Dre allegedly, right, having a relationship with a 16-year-old, also beating a woman senseless for writing a bad article about him, I believe. Allegedly was the allegation. D. Barnes, he allegedly assaulted a hip-hop journalist. Yeah, a little bit sketchy, all right? So he's calling out Dr. Dre, who has documented history of the kind of thing that Not Like Us was talking about, right? And then he kind of reinterpolates, forgot about Dre. What, y'all thought I was done? You forgot what I'd done? Y'all forgot about Drake? Y'all forgot where I'm from? Y'all forgot if I gave you a hand, you under the thumb? So he throwing it right back at Dr. Dre. And now basically this apparently was a reference to LeBron James, where he's talking about convenient amnesia from all you ban arenas. It doesn't alter what you said or how it made you see us. I shouldn't even be shocked to see you in that arena because you always made your career off switching teams up. Damn. Okay. So this basically is apparently reference to LeBron James vibing to Not Like Us at the pop-up. Oh boy. Oh boy. He was really jamming out to that part of the song too, right? So where's actually the footage of LeBron? There he is in the crowd. Popping it. Enjoying himself, okay? Drake was apparently very bitter and upset that happened, okay? So he came for LeBron. He came for Dr. Dre. All right? He defends himself with his Jewish roots. He's half Jewish, half black. A lot of people didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? And interesting, right? He said, damn, F a Billboard number one, man. Whoop-de-doo. They rigged the game because you fighting the biggest artist. So again, that's a reference to Kendrick going number one with Not Like Us, and he went number one with Luther. Drake dropped his What Did I Miss, and it only went to number two. But he's conveniently leaving out the part. It was Alex Warren who beat him at the number one stop, right? He posted Suppressor on the number one spot on his Instagram story, adding, I'm taking that soon. Don't worry, one song or another, rule changes and all. But Drake did not go number one, right? It was all Not Like Us and Luther, okay? Now, he dissed Jay-Z a couple more times on the project too, okay? This one, I thought this one was pretty funny, okay? Says, you dudes hitting the net for some love, you a tennis ball. He said, I'll take 500K down to dinner. I think he said, I'll take 500K over dinner. I can never learn shit from none of y'all. And this is a reference to, you know, the whole thing of, oh, would you take 500 grand or dinner with Jay-Z? And a lot of people saying, yeah, I would take dinner with Jay-Z. I'm going to learn how to make millions. But basically, even Jay-Z himself said it's better to take the money. Everything I could teach you is already in my music. You got to take the money. What am I saying, man? But basically, Drake's saying, F that. I'll take 500K. I couldn't learn shit from Jay-Z. Now, I think that's some pretty spicy talk. All right. And I thought that was quite a funny little diss towards Jay-Z. And he would diss Jay-Z once again, as well as Pusha T, all right, on Too Hard for the Radio. So on this track, he would gun at them again. He said, damn, y'all was really island hopping back then. Huh? Now y'all names got redacted. Yeah. Now a dude got a fact check. What? And I'm up on the West like Pac-10. So he's referencing Pusha T and Jay-Z being in the Epstein files, right? He said, damn, y'all was really island hopping back then. Now now your names got redacted. So both Jay-Z and Pusha T were mentioned in the Epstein files, right? And he's referencing that. I feel like that's pretty funny. All right. That's the Not Like Us throwing it right back in their faces. Very, very funny. So he apparently had some shots for Playboi Carti too, all right? And we saw the Carti fans hating on the album, all right? So on a track, Whisper My Name, all right? He basically, he would diss a bunch of people, right? Saying the dustiest dude's been messing with us. So my white label had to go white label shit when he stepped out his body and finally got hot, all right? So he's basically saying UMG's led by white executives and they had to go white label on Kendrick Lamar, rebranding him as a hotter, more marketable star during the beef. And white label's basically saying that's how UMG relaunched Kendrick's image and sound so heavily that his newfound heat feels manufactured. But here, he was apparently referring to Playboi Carti. He said, "Baby boy, please, I heard what you said to little bro about me. Yeah, when you run into the Iceman, what you going to do except freeze? You're not about to squeeze. You're not in the streets. I'm cutting dudes off at their knees. They ain't standing on business with me. If I'm lying, I'm flying economy. Give me a mother effing seat." Right? If I'm lying, I'm flying economy. I bet I know who I see. Right? I knew that's who he was talking about. But basically, some people are saying this is a reference to The Weeknd or Playboi Carti collaborating with The Weeknd, saying, "I heard what you said to Lil Bro about me." It says it may be a reach, but The Weeknd's always referred to Drake as his big brother. It's no secret The Weeknd and Playboi Carti got close. And the previous lyric, Drake refers to Carti as baby boy. Carti, the name gives him a name that Carti gave to himself. This may be hinting that Carti was talking about Drake behind his back to The Weeknd. There's also a surface video of The Weeknd replying to a fan saying "F Drake," and his reply was, "You got to stop saying that shit though." Furthermore, The Weeknd's very close friend Lamar Taylor, who liked to post on X, which asked the question who will be featured on Drake's Iceman, which caused fans to believe The Weeknd might have a feature on the album, but that was false. Okay, but basically saying, yeah, if I run into Carti, we're gonna see. But then we hear him seemingly talking about Ye. All right, so it's saying, if I'm lying, I'm flying economy. Give me a seat. If I'm lying, I'm flying economy. I bet you know who I see. Now people are saying that it's Kanye. And back in June 2024, Ye and his wife Bianca were spotted flying economy on a commercial flight from Italy to Japan, which sparked widespread social media attention. Right? They're saying that this is Drake betting he'll see Ye in economy, and he was downplaying his potential millionaire status. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And he was basically saying that he'll pop out on people, right? So whisper my name. Don't say it too loud because you've got to come here and you know I pop out. We turn up Coachella, have boys backing down, and we might do the same if we touch Rolling Loud. But he basically saying he's going to pop up, all right? And that they're scared to come to Toronto. And elsewhere on the project, there was another line. I'm going to have to go and find it. But basically, right, there was a line where he said that you guys wouldn't leave Toronto. Or they had TPS. They had the police at his house. And basically before Kendrick left Canada to Toronto, the police had Drake on lockdown. So this was on the track National Treasures. And this was basically like some very, very interesting lines where he was basically talking about how much of a treasure he is in Toronto. But also, this seemingly suggested, all right, that he was basically ready to press the issue with Kendrick and his team in Toronto, and the police were on him. He said basically, look, yeah, none of you dudes are acting the same. None of you dudes are acting the same. Mind on my money. I'm racking my brain. So go to the hotel right after your game. I'm coming to your show and getting back on the plane. But don't stick around in the 6. So he's basically saying, look, we're going to catch you outside in the 6. All right. They're saying it has to be about Kendrick coming to the 6 to Toronto with a heavy police presence. All right. This was the heaviest of heavy police presences in Toronto when Kendrick Lamar came to town. Cops all over the place. Right. So not only was Kendrick Lamar moving with the police presidential style, but according to Drake, said, boy, got to dip out the 6, run out the 6, just like you did. Okay. Why was TPS at my crib until you boys slid? Check signing is my kink, pushing out ink, I feel like a squid. So it's basically, he breaks it down. It says, in 2025, on June the 12th and June 13th, Kendrick brought his Grand National Tour with SZA to Toronto for 2 sold-out shows at the Rogers Centre, close to the CN Tower. This is a critical moment in Kendrick's tour because he played diss tracks against Drake from the infamous 2024 feud in Drake's hometown. After the first show on June 12th, Kendrick was spotted leaving with a police escort. Academics allege Kendrick was receiving an escort to the airport to fly straight to New York to spend the night before returning to Toronto, so he couldn't even stay the night. They're basically saying he flew back to New York to stay the night and then flew back to Toronto. Drake is asserting Kendrick left the city as soon as possible and he didn't want to spend the night because he was fearful of a hostile situational confrontation by Drake's entourage. Perhaps Kendrick could not have stayed at any hotel in Toronto without Drake's feelers getting the drop on him. And basically, this is him saying, why was TPS at my crib until you boys slid? So he said, Drake saying Toronto police were at his house monitoring him because Kendrick was in town. I thought that was very, very interesting. Okay, I thought that was a very interesting point, right? So, yeah. He would diss DJ Mustard for obviously playing his part. Mustard on all of those disses. All right, a few LA names got mentioned here. Said, Mustard heard about us, got to catch up to the slaps. You ain't heard one since me and YG rapped. right? Saying this is a diss at DJ Mustard. Mustard was part of the beef between Kendrick and Drake as he produced some of the tracks, most notably Not Like Us. Drake's claiming Mustard hasn't made a hit song since Drake and YG collaborated on Who Do You Love. Here's the problem. Not Like Us was a bigger hit than Who Do You Love, right? Sorry, Drake. Like, can't really make that work. He said, facts, 900 million for the tracks. Rack City, bitch, we remember that. So basically this refers to the famous track that took the internet by storm, DJ Mustard, Muzzle on a Big Ho, Rack City, bitch, Rack City. They're saying, damn, you should try and get back on that. But here's the thing. Not Like Us is way bigger, all right? It's way bigger. So anyway, it was interesting, right? Because Rick Ross had just recently come out to speak about the Drake beef, and he obviously got some pot shots on the project. But this was kind of Ross being diplomatic about it, just a day ago. And basically Rick Ross was saying he thinks Drake will get over their beef and there's nothing for them to move on from. Saying he stepped out of line, he got checked. I feel like he'll get over it. Rose ain't have nothing to get over. Well, he might have something to get over now because he got this.
Years ago, you went viral talking about the whole Drake situation, man. Is there any way to mend that relationship? And because y'all got some amazing hits together.
We got a lot of cool records, you know what I mean? But I did a lot of dope records with a lot of real ones too, you know what I mean? So,
sure.
What it is, I feel like, honestly, we all G's. We know what time it is, you know what I mean? He stepped out of line, he got checked, you know, and I feel like he'll get over it. You know, Rose ain't have nothing to get over. You know what I mean? When it come to this music shit, this rap shit, we undefeated with it, you know what I mean? That's what I mean by we ain't got our nuts crossed on nobody, though. It ain't nobody we wake up on our mind that we hating on, you know what I mean?
So, you know, he said he ain't waking up hating on nobody. Well, Drake woke up and hated on him, and he hated on DJ Khaled, all right? So, obviously, I already showed you this lyric, but he said, dog, I was Aiden Ross with streams before Aiden Ross had ever streamed, right? Now, allegedly, ASAP Rocky and Rihanna got dissed. Now, there was a couple of disses that, you know, we sort of the shoe could fit on a few people, right? Now, a lot of people basically saying, Iceman turned, we knew the tables would turn. Iceman back outside for the great, oh God. Iceman back outside for the greater good. He said, F you pussy, but shout out your neighborhood. People think that's about Kendrick. He said, F Kendrick, but not LA or Compton. He said, I get mentioned a lot by a bunch of people I wish I never met. We sharing women that I already effed at the height of my success. Now, what's really interesting about that is it seems to be he's suggesting he's talking about ASAP Rocky, who's married to Rihanna. He's got a kid with her. Drake was smashing Rihanna back in the day. We kind of all know that at this point. But the fact that he said I was already smashed that woman at the height of my success, that's low-key like an admission. Drake's kind of like, yeah, that was the height of my success when I was getting on Rihanna and making #1 hits and all this kind of stuff. Is he sort of low-key accidentally admitting he fell off? He's sort of like, yeah, I already smashed her at the height of my success. Well, you're not at the height. That was the peak. So you're saying you peaked when you were smashing Rihanna. Well, he still got Rihanna. So what we doing here? Right. But anyway, there would be more lyrics that seem to suggest it could have been aimed at Rihanna. I personally think this is aimed at Kendrick Lamar. He said, I put you dudes through the ringer. You get embodied by a singing, right? So this is basically a reference to his Meek Mill diss. He said, I'm with Noel like I'm Chris Kringle. That's one of his guys from OVO. But this lyric, your baby mama ain't even post a single. Damn, where's she at? Now, I think he's talking about Kendrick, and I think he's talking about how Kendrick's wife, Whitney, has basically been low-key missing from social media. She don't really show too much on social media. She didn't really entertain too much of the beef. I don't think she posted Not Like Us. And apparently Rihanna did actually post Rocky's album. So I feel like, I'm not sure I believe that, but this seems to suggest it's about ASAP Rocky and Rihanna not supporting his career. Basically, it says that, you know, Drake used to be in a relationship with her and he was in love with her and all this kind of stuff. They used to be friends. But Drake got dissed on 3 tracks of Rocky's Don't Be Dumb album. It says Drake's trying to weaponize the perception that Rihanna was absent from Rocky's promotional rollout, but in reality, she attended the album release party and celebrated the #1 debut on X with Just Here to Let You Know My Baby Daddy got the #1 album. So the idea of your baby daddy ain't even post a single looks like she did. Looks like she did post a single. I need to see the original post. So look, your baby mama ain't even post a single. Well, it looks like she did, all right? So it's got to be about Kenny. It's got to be about Kenny Lamar, right? Your baby mama ain't even post a single. Well, what's this? What's this? Has to be about Kendrick Lamar, right? He out here taking Quaaludes. This crazy, okay? I think that this is all a diss towards Kendrick. He's saying you should be swimming with the effing fishes, but I still got love for your missus and her sister. Unless he's talking about Rihanna and Rocky still, I'm not sure. I feel like a lot of this could be... It could go both ways. The shoe could fit both A$AP Rocky and Kendrick, right? He says, you saw my brother, you was trying to fix it. Now you drop your album and you back to dissing. Well, you know, A$AP Rocky got to dissing on his Don't Be Dumb album, right? And so he basically said, I stole your bitch, I stole Rihanna from you. But Kendrick Lamar, all right? Not Like Us happened. He might have been behind the scenes trying to fix it. Then he dropped his GNX album and he back to dissing. There was a little bit of time between those, right? And he's saying, we G-Block babies, we not musicians. My dude didn't have pots to piss in. Now they dropped the top so much they got drop addictions. Basically, he's saying he tapped in with the real gangsters, all right, in Toronto, and he got a bunch of gangsters in the music video for that. But basically, I think he's talking about Kendrick, to be honest with you. That's my opinion, all right? It's, you know, he said, I swear I could cry when I see your face. I'm too in love to let you walk away. We know it's a dream to start a family in LA. They love me too much here. I cannot relocate. I just can't move away. I can't leave my brothers in the trenches. So I feel like, again, that's reference to... I feel like that's more likely to reference Kendrick Lamar because he's from LA. Now, elsewhere on the project, Drake would have addressed some of his legal disputes. All right. He says, dudes want to talk about a battle. I'm battling patience. I'm battling frustration. I'm about to turn 40, dog. I'm battling aging. I'm battling the fact the album ain't even dropping already. They asses complaining. F it. I'll battle the label. I'll battle the majors. I'll battle the stations till my ass is back in rotation. Pause. Right. Drake trying to put his ass in rotation. I don't know. Listen, Drake, whatever you do on your own time, bro, you can keep that ass in rotation. But he's basically saying that, you know, everybody wants to talk to him about the battle. He don't want to talk about it. He's frustrated because he lost. And then he took 2 years to talk about it, right? He says Drake speaks on the criticism he faces when he's trying to create music. And this is him basically saying, I didn't even drop the album. People are already complaining. Well, you took 2 years to respond. You started the beef. You was talking all this talk about drop, doing push-ups. And then when he pressed the red button and dropped it on your head top, now you depressed and you all sad, you know. He said, shout out the real fans knew what I had in the basement. So they're saying that, you know, he was ready to beef with the label, the majors. He ended up suing the record label. He didn't sue Kendrick Lamar, but he sued the label and it was thrown out. So that wasn't really a great look in the end, all right? So he also talks about his dad battling cancer, and this was quite a big admission. On this first intro track, Make Them Cry, obviously, he kind of talks about, you know, a lot of what he's been going through and his parents, but he dropped a bombshell at the end of the song when he revealed his father's facing cancer. He said, dudes want me all bent out of shape, rattled and shaken. My dad got cancer right now. He battling stages. Trust me when I say there's plenty of things I'd rather be facing. So he really going through it, man. He really going through it. Now, what's interesting, okay, there's an analysis of the Kendrick diss that was on a leaked track. It was originally called 1 AM in Albany that ended up being Make Them Remember on the album. And here's like an interesting breakdown that really just goes deep into how much Drake dissed Kendrick. And this is from Dark Kenny, a subreddit that's kind of all about, like, you know, a few of the dark, more conspiratorial theories around what Kendrick Lamar basically did to Drake's career. So he said on the original version of it, 1 AM in Albany, he said, as for those other suckers that's tucked away, I'm down to put bills on their face. No wonder they've been ducking Drake. Bills on their face. No wonder they've been ducking Drake. So it sounds like he's saying he's putting money on people's heads. He said the new leak ahead of Iceman 1 AM in Albany is a flagrant display of Drake's stupidity and short-sightedness. So bear in mind, this subreddit leans towards Kendrick Lamar. It says the disses against Kendrick, LeBron, and others are obvious, but I want to focus on one specific angle, Drake's evil ways. On Whacked Out Murals, Kendrick told us exactly that his beef was never going to be pieced up, that they'll never get over it, and exactly why this is. The track's title, someone tried to whack out his mural. He said, dudes from our city couldn't entertain old boy, promising bank transactions and even Bitcoin. I'll never piece it up. That shit don't sit well with me. Before I take a truce, I'll take him to hell with me. If that money got in the hands of a crash dummy, could jeopardize my family and burden the ones who love me. Now, it sounds like he's even admitting that basically Drake was promising money to have Kendrick killed. That seems to be what he's suggesting. So he'll never piece it up. It don't sit well with me. Dudes from our city wouldn't entertain him. He was promising them money. Before I take a truce, I'll take him to hell with me. I'll kill him. If that money got in the hands of a crash dummy, it would jeopardize my family. So he's saying that if Drake's money actually got to the right person in LA, he would have had Kendrick killed. That's crazy. Says I cannot go into specifics for obvious reasons and for brevity's sake, but on the first two tracks of GNX, Whacked Out Murals and Squabble Up, Kendrick explains there were 2 attempted hits with money floated from both the West Coast and East Coast. I'll go into this in a previous post you can read here. Whoa, so he's saying Drake tried to have him killed. Let's start with the track title 1 AM in Albany. Albany is the capital of New York, where the second hit was planned and then foiled. After word came out about the plans, this is extensively spoken about on Good Credit from Playboi Carti's album. Red and blue diamonds like Gusher Dog, up the score on you dudes like Rucker Dog. I'm sore because I got it off the muscle dog. Fra, fra, slide, slide. The street's ready for that shit right here. Drop, drop, die, die, kill, kill, watch, watch. Swamp Izzo. Right? That's Kendrick on Playboi Carti's Good Credit. It says red and blue diamonds are ambulance lights. Gushers refer to fatal injuries and blood loss. Off the muscle is self-explanatory as it's slide, drop, and kill to up the score is scoring a point via shooting, and Rucker refers to Rucker Park. So up the score and you dudes like Rucker Dog. I'm sore because I got it off the muscle dog. So basically, this is suggesting that this is referring to some kind of shooting attempt on Kendrick's life in Rucker Park. We're told by a noteworthy source that a majority of you will be familiar with that these attempted hits were stopped thanks to a buddy pass, as Kendrick affirms on Squabble Up. He said, a Ye dude couldn't try and hit me in the tri-state. Buddy pass. Better get him splashed till he hydrated. Now, it wasn't clear who this buddy was, but it seems like Drake might have clarified things. So, but truth be told, I can't even see the block. It's blocked. But truth be told, I can't even see the block. It's blocked by the treetops. Treetop Pyrus is a set of Bloods repped by Kendrick's affiliate YG. It doesn't take much reading between the lines to see what Drake is saying here. YG had made his stance in the beef very clear after Drake attempted to use his name to add weight to Family Matters. You know who really bang a set? My dude YG. Versus you bitter ass dudes be sweet like Cheerios. Weird ass dude, you dudes are lame. When it's smoke, don't ever mention my name. You're going to have me jeopardizing my fame, jeopardizing the gang, jeopardizing where you hang. I don't want to hear it, not even a snippet. You ain't Pyru, stop talking Pyru business. Ooh, YG talking about weirdo. Okay, let's get back to 1am in Albany and Drake's ham-fisted lyrics. He said, the blasphemy you talk lets me know that your amazing grace going to be delayed. Amazing Grace is a hymn played at funerals, essentially saying Kendrick avoided the hit and fortunately prolonged his time on Earth. God want to wipe that little smug look right off your effing face. All you really did was cap like uppercase. Dodger Trooper still managed to finally get a hit that let you run a base. Managed to finally get a hit that let you run a base. Dude saw you out at first. You need them. You at home now, just like a double play. It says God refers to Drake's position as the sixth God, and this is important as these lines are all about home. The Canadian says Kendrick was able to dodge a trooper, as in avoid a soldier and run a base by getting away. He explains he was only able to get this out because of his guys at home from the pop out. This is capped off by the final lyric, which refers to a double play, Kendrick's two homes in New York and LA. And then he says, as for these other suckers that's tucked away, I'm down to put bills on their face. No wonder they've been ducking Drake bills. No wonder they've been ducking Drake, bills on their face. No wonder they've been ducking Drake. Let's not even take it to that other place. You boys too pussy like double dates. So Drake continues the hit talk in the following lines. To put bills on someone's face is to put money on someone's head, i.e. a bounty. This is probably the best line from the track, not that there's much competition. Bill is the word for a receipt being paid, but it's also the beak of a water bird. In this case, a duck. To duck is to avoid something usually aimed at your head and face. Of course, Kendrick's surname is Duckworth, so Drake is going duck hunting, explaining the bill needed to take the shot, which blew up in his face. He goes on to say, you'll live to see another day, and even if you don't, it's just another day. We ain't crying for your punk ass anyway. I'm a six-sided renegade. For anyone adding more lemons to the lemonade, sour in the vibes that I generate. I'm 16 years in this, ain't no Minute Maid. It says, these lines are self-explanatory, but the final has some more weight. 16 is likely a reference to Kendrick's line, I done lost plenty of friends, 16 to be specific. We know this thanks to Minute Maid. An alliteration MM is used to refer to a Mercedes Maybach with the Mercedes logo mirroring the peace sign. When Drake says this ain't Minute Maid, he's saying this isn't peace or rap bravado, and that means what he's saying. Edit, I didn't explain the Minute Maid Mercedes Maybach piece thing well enough. I'm going to share some other examples. This isn't something specific to the track or Drake. It's a code used by a majority of rappers to note when they're on peace or looking for smoke. I'll give two examples. This is Travis and Drake Meltdown. So how many Texas boys done ran it up? A couple maybe. Swanging in the pickup truck, baby. F Mercedes. I'll F a dude's bitch, but she can't have the baby. I'll shoot your ass in Walmart like I'm the baby. That's a hard line. So Travis is saying F Mercedes, F peace. He follows that up by saying he'll shoot you. Like the baby who shot someone in Walmart. Meltdown is a diss against Pusha T and was responded to on So Be It. It says, till the day me and Grim reap meat, I'm 10 toes down till I'm 6 feet deep. Windows down in the Benz E Jeep. Hollering at a bimbo, beep, beep, beep. And that was Eminem, Corday, and Jack Harlow on Killer Remix. So here Eminem says he's riding a Mercedes, hollering and beeping his horn. He's looking for attention, not smoke. He's taunting, not looking for war or sending actual shots. Of course, this is M's whole thing. They're saying the peace sign and the Mercedes logo. All right, we get the gist. All right, we get the gist. There's an example in YG's Sue Whoop music video. They covered the Mercedes logo. They also censored Converse Chucks for obvious reasons. There was an insanely good catch from Carti who pointed out a parallel between 1AM and Albany and Whacked Out Murals. So in 1AM and Albany, it says, squares drawing the line, but we at the root of it now. And Kendrick says on Whacked Out Murals, turn me to an Eskimo, I drew the line in decimals. That's very interesting. It says other lines that are relevant but don't need much explanation include you put that jacket on anyone, you're funeral bound. That's obviously a reference to Not Like Us jacketing Drake as a PDF. He said, I'm in the battlefield really putting boots to the ground. They're trying to have me stuck in this position like rigor mortis, turn my back on you just to give you the bigger target. He says, bro, I'm reading these bars and all I can think of is rap snitches. People saying weak-ass bars. I just hope Whitney doesn't get caught in the crossfire of this again. She was the biggest victim of the battle to me. It was entirely due to this weird-ass dude. They're saying he even played the anti-Semitism victim card, but this was deleted. Oopsie. I may be a bit out the loop, but why now? He went from the beef to some sexy songs for you to this. Maybe that dramatic girl theory was correct. Rumor was that he was trying to put a hit out on your rival, the biggest rapper in the world. Wait. So rumor was that trying to put out a hit on your rival, the biggest rapper in the world, immediately after your highly publicized beef was the type of move to get you attention that you don't want. Anonymous source said, this is why the summer vibes in 2024 never came to fruition. I'd assume whatever investigation happened was settled one way or another. What's the dramatic girl theory? Basically that Baby Keem coded a diss track inside of a love song. A ghostwriter put forward that rappers will often swap the genders of their targets to encode disses in a subtle way, so they can be talking about issues with a woman, but the woman's actually a rapper they have beef with, basically dissing in code. So look, all right. These are just like the hot disses that I found straight away. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the album. I'm going to listen to it a few more times. I wonder if he's not dissing on the other two albums, because I've listened to them. I didn't catch anything explosive. That Iceman album really is like the Kendrick response album. So if I find anything else, I might do a bigger breakdown. I'd never heard this theory that Drake had put a hit on Kendrick, to be honest. I feel like the evidence shown there is flimsy, but at the same time, I could believe it if there was some more evidence shown for it. The idea that Whacked Out Murals is him basically saying that Drake tried to have him killed is crazy. Okay, but honestly, I don't believe it. But let me know what you guys think. Did you like the album? Did you feel like these disses were justified? Do you feel like Drake hit, or is it trash? You guys be the judge. Let me know what you think. I will catch you guys in the next video. I really want to cover loads of topics today, but I'm running out of time. I'm going to do my best, but thank you for supporting. I'm going to do a whole bunch of Drake content today, and then we're going to get back to the usual stuff we talk about. I just want to talk about a bunch of things today. I got a bunch of ideas, so let's just get to it. But thank you for watching this video. Catch you guys in the next one. I'm out, gang. Peace.